Good morning, everyone. I'm Steve, and I'm here with a couple of guests, some friends. I'm here today with my wife, Brandy. Brandy, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Brandy. I don't know. I read books with Steve and Stacey and everybody else.
And of course, Stacey's here with us.
Hey everybody, Stacey from Stacey's All Book. I'm read books. It is too early, y'all.
It is
Sunday
early.
morning.
Yeah, it's early on a Sunday morning. Well, not early, but too early.
It's early when you stay up till 1:30. We watched a movie last night that we'll talk about later because
Yeah.
Easter. But
Oh, that's right.
stayed up late.
Yeah.
I did not watch it. I can't.
So,
It wasn't
So,
what I thought, but yeah, you'll see.
yeah. So, our book of the month for November was Dead Mountain, and we pushed it off till now because we were behind on stuff. So we're discussing it in December. So, Stacey, do you want to tell us what your thoughts are? And we'll just go full spoilers. So, anyone who has not read it yet, we are going to be talking spoilers for an event that happened 70 years ago. So, just a heads up. So, Stacey, you want to kick us off?
So I was actually really excited about this only because it was way different than the other books that you've chosen for our books of the month. So this is a nonfiction book about an event that I had never even heard of, which is surprising because once I started getting into it, I was like, ooh, what is this? And I had to go and look up some stuff just to kind of get a little bit more history behind the Dyatlov passage. I don't even know how you pronounce any of these words. So this is an event that happened in Russia in 1959, I think it was. And so the Russian names were really hard. There was like 3 or 4 people with the same first name, so they all had were called by nicknames, and it was. I have to say that part was really difficult. One of the reasons why I had to take notes. The structure of the book, the way that it went from what happened to them during or the events leading up to this event, the author's experience with researching it, and then you have the third timeline, which is the rescue team's search after the events. I liked that because it gave me a little bit a better structure on who the players were in the book. If they hadn't done it that way, I would have been like, okay, this person is the and then I knew that, okay, these people during this are the searchers. They're not involved in this. These people are the ones who are actually involved in it. And this is the author and his experience with finding out what happened. So I liked that. I thought it made it easier. But I will say that of all of the nonfiction books that I've read, this is probably the most difficult to read. I thought that it was a little boring in the beginning. My favorite part was the end when he kind of wrapped up what his feelings were and what he thought happened. I had given it 4 stars when I finished because I was like, I really liked the way it ended. I was like, I really like the way he kind of went at it scientifically. But then when I sat down and thought about it, I was like, but that first 200 pages was really, this is only like a 250 page book.
Yeah.
Those 200 pages were really hard to read. So I ended up giving it 3 stars, but I still enjoyed it.
Well, before we go on, just want to say hi to Austrian Spencer. He says, hi, folks. Just thought I'd nip in and say hi. Haven't read the book, but sounds crazy. Yeah, it is pretty crazy. Thanks for dropping by.
Yeah, I also was excited because I kept, even romance booktubers that I follow were talking about this book or reading some nonfiction and talking about this book. Or I had just seen Goodreads was always recommending it to me. Amazon, of course, always they were pushing it pretty hard. So I was thinking, okay, this is good. That I put it on my TBR. I bought it for Steve, hoping, he would want to read it. And I didn't know anything about what had happened or these hikers. I did listen to the audiobook, which turned out to be a lot more than I thought. I thought, oh, it's a quick audiobook. I'm just going to listen to it. But there's pictures in the book. So it was an immersion thing for sure because I had to see the pictures and when they were happening. And then I found that it was really hard because I had bought the Kindle version. It was really hard to see the pictures on the Kindle on my little paperwhite. So then I found myself coming over to Steve's book and trying to see better pictures that are in his book. So that part was kind of a challenge for me. I did not like the author inserting himself into the story. It just, I didn't really need to hear his, I don't know, I feel bad saying that, but I don't want to know about, he's about to have a baby. And I mean, I like when people have babies and stuff. I love
You're
it.
pro baby.
But I was reading about Russian conspiracy theories, I thought. And my biggest gripe about the book is that it says the untold story. And I felt like it was claiming to solve the mystery. So I was fully, hoping in the end to like have a mystery solved by this book, but I don't feel like I got that. Do you guys?
No.
I thought he had a pretty good explanation for it, and I liked the last chapter where it laid out what he thought actually happened and more of a narrative, where he talked about what he thought actually happened. That last chapter where it was, yeah. I thought that was what to me was like, oh, that was so good. I felt satisfied with that. But
pro baby.
Pro baby.
I was like, did I say pro baby instead of pro baby? Yeah, I am.
But I can understand because that's still a theory, right? It's not actually solving. He didn't actually find the truth.
And I felt a little kind of ripped off because he would spend a little time talking about orbs or possibly maybe aliens, or gave all these theories that people had come up with through your government interference, all these things that sounded really cool and exciting. And then it was just kind of like, it was wind. So I felt like,
Miss Beljar says, stopping in to say hi. You guys keep making my TBR bigger. We'll be picking it up. You may want to wait.
Well, he might.
I might enjoy it. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan, but I didn't know much about this case until I watched a really bad found footage, low budget horror movie called Devil's Pass, I think it's called. So that it dealt with that. It was kind of some C-list actors going and trying to just find out what really happened, and that's a whole nother thing. But so I don't know much about this, but I was intrigued by the original case and what happened to these people and this mystery. But I also didn't enjoy the author inserting himself into the story. I think it was almost written to be a TV document, like a live action documentary, where he would explain, he would kind of be the narrator and he would talk about himself and try and insert himself into the story somehow, or make his life and his fiance or his life plans relevant somehow. That I just didn't care about anything that he had happening. It didn't have anything to do with the case, and it felt like it just took away. I think this book could have been 50 pages long and done the same thing. So there was a lot of it was the parts that I did find were the propaganda parts, where Russia tried to cover things up and tried to keep things quiet. I hate to say it. I want to say I think it was a UFO picked them up, or it's probably something really mundane and awful that happened to these people. And so it's not mundane, but it's something probably, like a bad weather or something happened to them that things just really, they kind of just a few, things happened and it's dominoed and it ended up ending in all their lives in this really horrible way. So yeah, I wasn't too thrilled with this one. I think it could have been a lot shorter and done the same thing.
Well, thank God it was only 250 pages, because I don't think I could have done it if it were any longer. I mean, that first half, like all the things that led up to them being where they were when the events happened, I was like, how is this relevant? Like it was like he just had to tell the whole story. And I don't know. I did find like it was really hard to get through that. I think if I hadn't taken notes, I I don't think I would have remembered anything that had happened, like who they were. Like I literally have notes that tell me each character who they were. Like Igor was the leader, Xena and Luda were the only women. Georgi was the musician with a mandolin. I had notes so that I could remember who they were. And Yudin was the only survivor and the person that the author, was interviewing. I found that fascinating.
Mm.
Was when he was talking to Yudin, and can you imagine the relief and guilt that he must feel that he wasn't there, but yet obviously relief that he wasn't, and then I thought it was interesting how he kept saying he thought the government was involved, but yet he was like, but Stalin is a good man.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, those two kind of contradict each other.
Yeah, I think they were just. I think they're conditioned to not speak up against the government, whether they think so or not. So I think they probably had to stop short of going all in on that theory of it's for sure the government, because you never know. I mean, and they lived through those years when people just disappear. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't blame them too much for for not going all in on that theory. Do you feel it was trying to make a mountain out of a molehill? That's disappointing. Yeah, it was.
Well,
It was pretty
he
disappointing.
definitely he was. So the author is a award-winning documentary director, whatever, creator. So my expectations for the story was going to be that kind of. I expected that when I looked up who the author was. So I didn't go into this thinking this was going to be a normal history nonfiction. So that's one of the reasons why him inserting himself in the story didn't bother me, because at most documentaries, the people who are investigating insert themselves into the story. I didn't think it was that much, except in the end. I thought it kind of gave me a little bit more information about him as to why he kept trying to find the answer. Like years later, even after he had interviewed, gone to Russia, he comes home and he's like, no, I'm not happy with, and it was kind of expected, right? Like, did you really think you were going to go and talk to these people and you were going to find, the mystery behind this? It was kind of like, hubris, like really. But the drive, those sacrifices that he made drove him to find the answers, right? He was obsessed with the story, which is why he decided to look into it. But his explaining his sacrifices that he made about his baby being young, and then he lost a lot of time with his family, made me understand why he kept pursuing an answer. So that's why the ending was satisfying. I'm not saying I agreed with his answer, but I liked that he finally came to a conclusion that he was happy with. He's like, you know what? I think this is what happened. And I like the way it was wrapped up in the end. But I want to know more about this, because I don't think that's what happened.
No, I think part of it, I kind of got the impression at the end that he just kind of said, I didn't get the impression he was totally convinced that's what it was. Like he was 100% sure. He's like, this is probably what happened, because he just wants to move on with his life, because he was obsessed with it and did lose out on so many experiences with his family. So I don't know. It was really like, come on. I don't know. And I get what you're saying. It makes sense about his sacrifices and him being obsessed with the events. But like you had mentioned, Stacey, what happened before and their diary entries, and this person, what people, but where he wanted to sleep one night, and it's like, okay, this doesn't matter. This is just a waste of time. I think it would have been better if he focused on the events and, kind of went in on the nitty gritty. But it's hard when you're going off of something that happened in 1959 in communist Russia, when a lot of things were covered up, or who knows what we didn't know about there. But there were some details in the story that were really creepy, though, with the tent being cut from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
That was. I mean, it just gives you, that the willies, what happened to these people.
I felt like that beginning part that he was attempting to get us to care about them. Like they went to the school and they played for the kids, and he did an okay job about that. So that when you get to the part where they're all barefoot and found in the snow, you are like sad. I mean, you're sad anyway, but I think he was attempting to get us to connect with these people before we learn really what happened, but I just didn't feel it. Like it was just kind of dry.
I think it would have been better if he had let Yuden tell us who they were.
Yeah. I thought there would be way more from Yuden, like way more. Having.
I have to keep looking at my notes. Like Yuden, yeah, that was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the names are really. I had to kind of take my time with the names because they were really, some of them, like you said, had the same first name, and so it was a little confusing at first.
That's the reason I was thankful for the audiobook, because there's no way I would have. Dyatlov is how the narrator said it. Dyatlov.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just felt too like he would give us things like they took chocolate, or tell us everything they took, and there's this whole thing about where's the chocolate. We can't find they couldn't find the chocolate, and then you just get to like a little 2-sentence line where it's like, oh yeah, the investigators ate the chocolate. You're wondering what happened to this chocolate. Is it part of the tongue? Her tongue got eaten. He makes a huge deal about that, and then he's like, "Oh, those are probably just some animals," or it didn't end up coming to anything. So I felt like excited about different things that were weird that would happen, but then in the end, it was just always like a short little sentence of, "Yeah, but it was probably just birds picking at her tongue," or. Do you understand what I don't know?
But I guess you have to make something that happened so long ago interesting. It's hard to make it, besides just the initial details of the case of what happened to them. They were experienced hikers. They knew what they were doing. They were prepared. Somehow they managed to all be outside barefoot, or most of them barefoot, different places, and it looked like defensive wounds in it. So when you look at the details of it, but when you start digging into it, it starts to. So I guess you have to make that captivating, like it's happening in real time, like it's a real, like we're uncovering new details, but we're really not. It's just stuff that been known, and we may not ever know more. But Josh says this is a fascinating mystery that modern science has finally solved. Have you watched any newer videos explaining what happened? I did look. Excuse me, I did look on YouTube after, because you had mentioned that before, and I did find one video. I'm not sure if it was one you're referencing, but it's one that it was a combination of the wind and the snow. And the snow, I think the forecast was high winds that night and snow. And they think that there was a snow bank because they dug too deep into the mountain when they set their tent. So the snow built up and it around the tent, and it fell onto the tent, blocking the entry and exit. That's why they had to cut themselves out of it, and they panicked because of the snow and because of the wind. So they started running, and they ended up trying to start a fire, and they tried to climb a tree to get dry branches, and they ended up falling off, and that's what caused some of those wounds. So I think that's the one. If that's not the one you're talking about, Josh, let me know.
Well, that makes a little more sense. The sense that I got from this book was the wind kind of made them mad, like crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's why I was kind of like, I could see. Oh, go ahead.
You talked about the Taos hum. Well, I've lived in New Mexico for I don't know how long. I've never heard of the Taos hum. I know
people who hear it.
They've heard it, and it drives them crazy.
Well, no, they aren't crazy. They just are irritated and annoyed all the time because they hear this hum constantly. Yeah. You just get used to it.
And that's a big difference between being irritated and, go crazy. And that's why I was kind of like, that's a bit of a stretch. What I thought was, if the wind was doing, he kept talking about how it probably vibrated the skis underneath them, and maybe they heard that like train sound. My thing was, they may have thought there was an avalanche, and they got out of the tent quickly because they thought they were going to be. That made more sense than them going crazy and having this anxiety. And so it makes more sense that if that was the case, if that wind was so bad that the freight train sound was coming and it was vibrating and everything, wouldn't it make more sense that they may have thought there was an avalanche and got out of there trying to get as far away from it, go to the trees where they would be safe, where there would be shelter? That made more sense to me than, it's almost like he had to have this in order to make it sound like, oh, it's crazy. They went nuts. They were lunatics.
For all of them to do that, I think it was a little bit of a stretch. Josh said, check out one of my favorite science YouTubers, Anton Petrov, in a video called "What Happened to the Dyatlov Pass Incident." New Paper explains. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. And Juan says, I think Brandy's comments go back to the unnecessary length. It sounds like a lot of unnecessary padding just to make a book out of it. And I love how I'm commenting as if I read it.
Well, after this conversation, it will probably feel like you did read it. Because I think we pretty much talked about everything.
I suggest watching a 10-minute video on YouTube instead of reading this book. But,
yeah.
Mazda says,
well, it's not.
You guys are up. It's early over here. That's why. But good morning. Good morning, Mazda. Sorry, Stacey.
Good morning, Mazda. Oh, no, I was just going to say it's not as early here as it is for him. But it's too early for you too.
There you go. Yeah.
I didn't even bother doing anything. I was just like, I'm up. I'm going to have breakfast. I'm going online. So, no judging.
No judging at all. But yeah.
But I seriously was going to put on like a hat and a scarf and everything and be like, getting I do like having read this in the winter though. It's kind of fun. Kind of getting in the cold weather mood. It's just not cold enough yet.
Yeah. Miss Valjared says, see, I thought learning more about this would be okay. And since it was cheap, it would be okay to add to my Kindle. But you guys all seem very turned away from the book. Yeah. If it sounds like it may be interesting to you, I would say read it and give it a shot. But for me, it was a 2-star read for me because it just didn't, it seemed a lot of fluff, a lot of fat, and that could have been chopped. And I do see that the author is a documentary. He's made documentaries before because it read like he was preparing this to be a documentary, and the format just didn't fit with me. I think in a live action documentary, it would, when you invest an hour into something and you watch a documentary about this person looking into the case and trying to solve it, that's different than investing 4 or 5 hours into a book. So it's easier. It's a different format. You can do different things with it. I think in an hour-long documentary, it would have been fine, but in a book that you have to sink more time into, it's just different. It just didn't get me.
I wonder why though. It would have been a much better documentary. I wonder.
He probably couldn't get camera footage.
Oh, maybe being over in Russia, they don't allow so much.
Yeah, or the people didn't want to be on camera.
Speaking of him going over to Russia, I just felt too like he met that lawyer in the airport, and just he couldn't understand him. He didn't really know why they were meeting, and it just went on for pages and pages, and then nothing really. I don't even know what that was about. There was never any explanation of why did you meet that lawyer and what was that. It was just like, I don't know. Did you guys? I was confused about that part. What was that all about?
Yeah, for the author's chapters, I found myself towards about the middle of the book, I started kind of like skimming through because it just not interested in his life and his family, and it didn't grab me early enough to. I wasn't invested. I couldn't get invested in him enough to really. I wanted to know about the case. I didn't want to know about him and his personal life, or his fiance was a jealous type, or I don't care.
Well, I was kind of hoping with that situation that something was going to be revealed later that he missed, that was lost in translation with this attorney or lawyer that the other investigator wanted him to meet up with in his layover to Russia. But I don't feel like anything ever came of that. I know he shows up later, but it wasn't really explained. I don't know. That was confusing to me. I did like all the theories and stuff. I do like to think about all the different things that could happen. I just felt like let down a little by the fact that it just seemed like it was promised to be a solved case after the end of this book, and it didn't feel that way, which is okay. I mean, I love an unsolved mystery, but like just let's just say it's still unsolved.
Josh said another very interesting video is from the channel Ask a Mortician called Wait, Frozen, Solve the Dyatlov Past Mystery. I have to check these out.
Yeah.
Austrian says they weren't carrying a small engraved ring, were they? Or a necklace hanging around one of their necks. Barefoot.
Oh, God.
They had hands for feet. They were looking for second breakfast and they got lost.
Yeah.
Spoilers, his baby did it. Yet his baby grew up, went back in time, made these events happen to create to change the timeline so his future dad would go back and everything would be in set. So the table would be set for his birth.
So you have found a way to turn a nonfiction book about an incident in Russia into a time issue.
Yeah.
Where's Jeff?
Where's Jeff? And he knew. Yeah, where's Jeff?
Are we gonna have to talk about Dark now?
I wasn't going to say it, but so yeah, I don't know that we'll ever really know 100% for what happened. We'll never. I don't know that we'll. I know that's not satisfying for anybody and for me either, but it'll be hard to prove because there's so many things that were lost or covered up, or we may never know other details that the government at the time covered up. So it's difficult.
For me, that's okay. Like, it's okay for me not to know. But I like an unsolved mystery, or I like to come away from some mysteries thinking, oh, it could have been this, it could have been that. And I think he could have done a lot more of that. But he kind of just at the end was like, but this is what happened. Or what I think happened, and it's probably what happened. And so, but it didn't feel like that. I don't know.
Yeah. And I kind of agree with Steve when he's like, I think he just needed to close it out. He's like, yeah, that sounds feasible. Let's just say that's what happened. But I do like that he did include all the other things that it could have been. And I like that he gave reasons why he didn't think those were feasible. Except when he talked about the orbs and stuff. He didn't really give a good reason why that didn't happen, except like, yeah. So like, what are the chances of it being aliens? But so I was kind of like, you made good arguments for the other ones. And that one, you just kind of went, it's not likely, right? But it's this mysterious sound that the wind makes that turns everybody crazy. And even in that explanation, he talks about not everybody is sensitive to it, right? But you're talking about everybody in that tent went crazy and ran out.
Experienced hikers. I mean, they were survivalists. They were, these people were, trained, were in shape, were, I don't know.
There wasn't one person that said, what are you guys freaking out about?
Yeah.
I'm trying to sleep. Shut up.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty bummed out because I was looking forward to reading this one for a long time. And I'm pretty disappointed with it. But I guess it's hard too to write something like this in, was it 2012 or right around there? I think the book was written. So it's hard to write a book and then there's new things come out, and so it's hard to stay up to date when you write a book about it. So it changes and new science or whatever. Thanks for stopping by, Austria.
Yeah, thank you. Well, like the size of the book, this is going to probably be a short video. I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, we figured this might be a short one.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything. I didn't want to come and trash it or anything because there were things that I liked about it, and it was an okay audio book. I think it was only available on Amazon Audible, but my 2 stars is it was okay. I didn't hate it or anything, but it was okay.
Another thing with the book is there's a lot of. Did you get the paperback, Stacey?
No.
Did you read it? There's a ton of pages with with the pictures. So really, this 250-page book or whatever it was, maybe 50 pages are pictures out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And there's another 100 pages of unnecessary stuff that you didn't need to know, and then about 50 pages of really like nitty gritty stuff. So I give this one 2 stars. My 2 stars is I didn't like it, but if someone's interested in it, I suggest they check it out. Maybe it'll be for you. It doesn't work for me, but maybe it'll work for you.
Yeah, I still stand by my 3 stars. I think it's because I didn't know anything about it. So all of the fluff and the unnecessary stuff for me was interesting because I absolutely had no context at all. I mean, I never even heard of this incident. Or if I had, I didn't connect it with, I didn't know they were the same thing. So I was really intrigued. And I wasn't disappointed, like I said, because I didn't know anything about it, and he set it up to be this like mystery. Was this murder? Was it aliens? I was disappointed, but I did like the way he closed it out. I felt like it was a satisfying ending because it was his ending. But he didn't come out and say, and maybe that's because he inserted himself into the story. It became an opinion of his instead of, hey, this is the truth. And so I accepted it as his truth, and so it was satisfying. It wasn't like, no, don't tell me that's how it happened, and that's not how it happened. I could have my own opinion, right? I could go, yeah, I could see why you think that. But even if I take some of the information that you have found, I could come up with another solution that could just as likely be the case. And it made me feel like I was part of the investigation, and I liked that. So to me, I liked it. It had problems. It wasn't the best nonfiction book that I've ever read. But it made me want to know more about this too. And so I will be checking out those YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Because I want to know, did they really solve it? Or is it another opinion?
Yeah. And Juan says, I trust y'all not reading this. Yeah. Right. You can watch a 10-minute YouTube video that was in one of these comments, and
you could get the whole.
Yeah, get the whole thing.
If you already own it, at least go through it and look at the pictures, because some of those it was really cool to kind of see, some of the stuff, that the pictures of the people, and nothing that was grotesque or gross or anything like that. So it's nothing like that, but it was kind of neat to see like where the tent was, and, kind of immerse yourself more into the story of where they were. I had hoped for more pictures. And I don't know if there were more in the paperback version, but I had thought, hey, you're there. Literally, the author is there. And this is in 2012. You've got digital cameras, dude. Why don't we have a ton of pictures of what it looks like today? I had hoped more for that. Like, you're describing to me that you're standing in the spot where the tent is. Why is there not a picture of this?
Yeah. There wasn't in the paper. I mean, I think the pictures in the Kindle lined up pretty well with the pictures in the paperback. They were just on a small scale if you had a Kindle, if it was on Kindle.
Yeah, I think
Boot Rock
you're right,
does
Stacey.
not look like a hiking boot. Just saying.
Yeah. And you're right about the pictures. It did add another layer, and that was some of the best parts of the book. But especially when they say this is the last time this is the last day they'll be alive, and then you see pictures of them, and it's going to happen, and these terrible things happen. So it did add to that, that like, oh, these poor people, that this adds to the anticipation, the suspense of what happened to them. But
it did make them more real.
Yeah, and it was their pictures that they took, so I felt like that was kind of cool. But they don't really explain, like, that they found all these journals, and they found like the film or the camera or wherever they got the pictures from, but how could it not be damaged? Or there was no explanation to the process of having to uncover or decipher these journals that could have possibly were stuck in the snow for a long time. I can't imagine they were in great shape, or any of it was in great shape. But I'd like to know more about that.
Well, can you trust any of this evidence, really? I mean, any of the journal entries? I mean,
yeah, we don't know what was planted by the government.
Right.
I kind of find it hard to believe that these journals would survive that weather and everything.
Yeah.
But
And were released to be, for him to even have the ability to get them translated and put them as like, considering how hard they worked to cover up everything, to not. And so there's a book that I read called Child 41 or Child 44, and it takes place around the same time as this incident. And I don't know if you guys have read it, but it's about a child killer, and he's a serial killer and he kills children. And this investigator has to go and cover it up. And because Russia can't, at this period in time, there are no such serial killers are a Western idea. There are no serial killers. Russians don't kill each other. It was part of the communist message. And so even if this was something innocuous, the government obviously made an effort to try and hide the fact that it happened. They didn't want people to mourn. They didn't want to bury them in their own town. So it could be just, like I said, the communist message, just like a tragedy doesn't happen to us. That's a Western idea. Or could it have been more? And like Steve said, we'll probably never know the truth. We definitely, unless we have time travel and can go back, we will never know exactly what happened. We can have our ideas. We might, uncover evidence for more, for a better picture of what happened, but without being there, unless and I doubt even if there was somebody involved that was there at the time that witnessed it, if they're even still alive.
Speaking of the Tau Som, Jeff's ears must have been ringing because he said the original found footage trope. We were just talking about you, Jeff.
Yeah. We were like, where's Jeff?
We were talking about time travel and trying to.
And Dark may have come up.
Dark may have. I didn't bring it up. Yeah, time travel. Yeah.
Jeff could make that happen.
We have theories.
Yeah.
We have theories. Cool. Yeah. So I think this might be a quick one, but yeah.
Well, what do you think happened? So let's close out by you giving me your opinions about what happened.
What do you think?
What do I think? I think there was some kind of foul play going on somewhere, but I didn't get enough to know what could that be, because there were so many things that were strange, like silly things like the girl I can't remember her name, but her tongue was eaten out, like as if it might have been cut out or severed for her talking, and he did say she has a big mouth, or she's kind of a big mouth, but the person next to her tongue, has a tongue,
right?
So that was interesting, like to me, that she didn't have her tongue, but he did, and why,
and that was the only thing that was eaten.
Like, yeah. So little things like that make me think, I don't know, maybe there was something going on out there with somebody else.
And then you'd had she was also found, that was the ravine, right? Was she the one in the ravine?
Yeah. But
so there were 4 of them found in that ravine, right? She had her tongue, and then there were 2 of them had severe blunt trauma. But then there's a 4th person that didn't have any. So it's like, if they all fell in there, why did only 2 of them have injuries? And she had like a broken foot or something. That was all she had, and a tongue missing. But he was froze to death. That was his only issue. And I think he talks about, he may have fallen on top of one of the guys, and that's why. It's like, I don't know. It all seems
just the attempt for the government to cover things up too. I mean, I know they, like you said, they like to cover stuff up anyway, just mundane type things, but I don't know. Come on.
What do you think, Stacey?
Well, I think that there was more to it. I don't know if it was foul play.
Her tongue with a set of fava beans and some nice Chianti.
The fact that the tent was cut from the inside is what kind of makes me wonder, could it have been somebody? Why would they have done it? Cut themselves out of the tent? That's where where it's hard for me to figure out that it could have been anything other than themselves fleeing the tent. Why they did it, I think it could have been that they thought there was an avalanche. So he talks about it wasn't possible that it was an avalanche because of the slope of but if this wind thing did happen, and I think he made a good point that it was a possibility, I think it's more likely they thought an avalanche was coming and that's why they fled. But there's a lot of things that make me think that there had to have been something else. And not everything is answered by that. Yeah, you've answered why these people may have fled the tent, but there were other things like why didn't they? I don't know. I thought a lot of it was weird.
Can I guess what you're gonna say? I think you want really badly for it to be UFOs.
I would, yeah, that'd be cool, but I don't think it is. I think it's something. I think it's just like Stacey said. I think they thought there was an avalanche with the wind and the snow, and they their tent was buried in some snow, and they panicked, and not because they heard a hum, but because they heard strange noises from the wind. I think they just thought there was an avalanche. We have to get out of here and find some other shelter, and they did. And by the time they realized that okay, there's not an avalanche, they tried to make it back, or they tried to hunker down somewhere else until the morning. It just dominoed into a really terrible situation. So I wish I could say it was the government. It was the Russian government. Was I think that's a lot of trouble to kill a bunch of college students to wait for them to get out in the middle of nowhere. I don't think they need to go to those lengths.
See something
in communist Russia to.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Testing going on.
I think if there was something like that, they would have covered it all up. You would have never found anything. They would have just disappeared.
It's true.
So there wouldn't even be a tent. There wouldn't be bodies. They would all be. They would just without a trace disappear.
Oh man, you're so right.
I mean, I wish I could say it was something, but just as to spoil the video, science shows that a slab avalanche would have buried the tent and crushed several of the occupants.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, it was still cool. It was still
Yeah.
cool to read about it, even if it wasn't done entirely well. Mm-hmm. With you, I'm curious, Brandy, was this your first like nonfiction book, or have you read others?
No, I've read some others, but just like I read Green Lights this year from Matthew McConaughey, but only because I wanted to listen to the audiobook because he narrates it. It was okay.
All right.
Yeah, it was a great audiobook. I recommend if you like that voice of Matthew McConaughey, like butter.
So Stacey, where can people find you?
So you can find me on YouTube at Stacey's All Booked. I'm also on Twitter at All Stacey and Instagram Stacey's All Booked.
And Juan says, let's keep the stream going until we solve it. Yeah, we'll go on forever. We'll just be skeletons here, I think. Eventually.
I want to read we did buy The Rape of Nanking.
Yeah.
That
I'm going to read that, yeah.
Oh, is that a nonfiction?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's what the Poppy War, how it has you've read the Poppy War, right?
Mm-hmm.
That event, it's the true story of those events.
Okay.
So it's going to be a tough read, but looking forward to it. Well, I'm not looking forward to reading about it, but history. So where can people find you, Brandy?
Right here next to you at your desk.
Goodreads, Twitter.
Oh yeah, I'm on Goodreads. I don't know. I don't really do. I do a little bit of Twitter. I'm really bad at Twitter, but I try. And I'm on Steve's forums and also kind of bad at that. But
She has a blog, y'all. She has a blog on the forums.
I have made 3 blog posts on our forums. I'm gonna try to do more. It's just kind of an outlet for me.
They're fun. Yeah.
They're fun to read.
Yeah, they are fun. So thanks everyone for hanging out with us. Thanks Josh and Jeff and Austrian and Juan and Jared, Maza. Trying to get the list. Hope I don't miss anybody. But thanks for dropping by. Thanks for hearing us talk about Dead Mountain. If you have read it, let us know how you liked it or not, or what you think about the case. Let us know in the comments what you think really happened to these people. We will talk to you all soon.
Bye.